Hi, everyone. Good morning. How are you all? I hope everybody can hear me. Buenos días a todos, buenos días a todas. I want to welcome you. I'm Celina from Glasswing, and I want to welcome you to our fourth annual mental health conference. We're so excited to have you here. I want to thank our co-creators and co-host Catalyst 2030 and our co-host USAID for helping us organize this year's event. We're really excited. We're excited to be here. And we have a really wonderful group of speakers lined up. I think many of you have seen the list, and you'll hear from a global group of panelists from different countries. Over 10, I think, countries is what we saw last. And we're going to have the 3 tracks that I think you all looked at. From scaling community mental health is one of them, mental health and climate change is another, and digital solutions for mental health is the third. So just to give you a sense of who's here, we have people, and you'll probably see it in the chat, we have panelists from Ecuador, Uganda, South Africa, Mexico, India, Rwanda, the UK. We're really spanning across continents, so we're excited. And now I'm going to introduce my good friend, Chris Underhill. Many of you probably know him, if not all of you, but he is not only a social entrepreneur who specializes in leadership, disability, mental health, and appropriate tech. He also founded several different social enterprises, Thrive, Basic Needs. He's also the founder of the Elders Council for Social Entrepreneurs. But aside from all the amazing things he's done and continues to do, I just have to say that he's also an incredible role model and mentor for many of us, including myself, and a great friend with whom we laugh and enjoy a lot of common interests. So I'm really excited to introduce this stellar human being, Chris Underhill. I hope you all enjoy the conference, and I'm looking forward to hearing about everybody's comments and interacting with you on the chat. Chris, over to you.
Thank you so much, Celina, for that very undeserved and warm welcome. I've been invited by Celina and the team to make a few remarks, and so that's what I'd love to do now. But let me say what a pleasure it is to be here as the chair of the Catalyst 2030 Mental Health Collaboration. Wonderful to be here. I think since last year, we have really started to notice some important developments in global mental health. And one of the things that has really struck me as being important is the whole question of coalitions which are now springing up. There's not only the Catalyst 2030 Mental Health Collaboration, which has been going for some time now, but very importantly, there's the Coalition for Mental Health Investment, which has been brought together by the Clinton Global Initiative, the Wellcome Trust, Kokoro, and the McKinsey Health Institute. And we look forward to working with them in the future. There's also the Coalition for Scaling Mental Health. That's the Friendship Bench, Amiri Institute, Strong Minds, Ubuntu Center for Peace, and now many others. And also, but last but not least by any means, the Basic Needs Network. I think if the coalition or the move to bring people into coalition is one thing, the other thing that's really struck me as being the way in which workplace mental health has taken off. So there are many wonderful examples of such organizations promoting workplace mental health. For example, in India, Mana Wellness, Mindshare Partners over in San Francisco and other parts of the US. Mental Health First Aid has been long on the scene, and Mind Forward Alliance, that is to say the organization started by the wonderful Poppy Jarman. So these are all important features, I think, coalition and workplace mental health. And as if to sort of evoke all of that, what I think is also happening is that there is that discussion of mental health and well-being is much more prevalent now than it ever has been in the past. Whilst this is not true universally, it is nevertheless the case that we are seeing a great deal more acceptance of mental health and mental illness being part of everyday life in the same way as we do physical health and illness. I've also noted of late the development of more organizations interested in promoting global mental health. And these are championing not only the subject itself of working in the field of mental health, but also different models. Panel 1, for example, will bring this out, and as will Panel 2, in fact, in the context of culture. And so I think that this is a really important feature of the everyday now in our field of global mental health. Some of the organizations that I have already mentioned and some that I haven't are already working on this whole question of scale. And so not only do we see more organizations coming into fruition, but we also see more scaling. And that, I think, is very important because, of course, it allows for systems work to begin and really to become important, the influencing of education, of health, of youth, of women, climate change. All of this is very important in the context. Better documentation and data collection is now something that really is on the agenda, and that's very exciting, particularly at the level of practice. And learning across regions, in other words, learning from each other, is something which I think has really become quite an important feature now of what we are aspiring to do in the field of global mental health. And so, for example, today we see mental health and in fact, we're going to see it in this conference. We see mental health and climate change. We see mental health and different topics and subjects coming up all the time. And that, I think, is encouraging. And for later on today, we'll be looking at mental health and technology. But if we upend that conceptualization, what do we see in reality? Actually, it's that mental health is everywhere. The fact of the matter is that it isn't only appropriate for us to look at it in terms of segments, but it's better for us to understand that mental health is everywhere in work practice and the life circumstances of people from many different regions and in many different circumstances. Thank you so much for listening to that, and let me pass you back to Celina.
Thank you so much, Chris. I think all those reflections are really just kind of interesting for all of us to think about as we go into this conference, and then also just in our work, right? There's so many ways that mental health is showing up now, and we're talking about it so much more, which is really exciting. But kind of the intersection of mental health is also so important, because it is hard many times to advocate for mental health as its own. You know, we're all advocating so hard for mental health to really be front and center. So it's like, how do we do both at the same time, front and center, but also show how mental health is so foundational to achieve so many outcomes that we're seeking in the world, right? It's not a separate sector necessarily. It's something that really is linked to so many of the global goals now. So I'm going to go into the less inspiring but practical housekeeping before we go into our main sessions. So I'm just going to give you a few quick notes before we get started, and remind you that, for example, our panels are going to be back to back. We have 2 breaks in between our panels. You only need 1 link for the conference, and then from that single link, you can join in at any panel you'd like to attend. So you don't need to identify different links. This event will be in English, but we also have simultaneous live translation in Spanish. And for translation, please make sure your audio selection at the bottom of your screen, that you tick on that where you see a globe. Para la traducción simultánea al español, hay un como globito, mundito abajo, entonces solo seleccionen ese como mundito y ahí pueden seleccionar la traducción en español simultánea para quienes lo quieran. All of our sessions will be recorded and accessible via YouTube following the conference. And we do encourage you to participate. Please submit your questions at the beginning of the session in the chat box, and then, or even during, if you hear something and you'd like to ask a question. And then we have moderators who are going to pick 1 to 2 questions that can come into the panelists from the audience. So, we're really excited. Please enjoy the conference. Thank you so much for joining, for being part of this broader community. And we look forward to a great morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are. Thank you so much.